The NFL Combine is set to kick off in Indianapolis, and here to help me break down some of the key storylines is DraftWire editor Luke Easterling. Luke, it's been a while since I've seen you, so thank you for joining us today. I want to dig into some of the names, obviously, to focus on for the Combine. But before we get into that, I do have a general question for you when it comes to the Combine. So it seems like each year that passes, more and more folks are really questioning its worth and whether or not it should continue to be held. So as someone who analyzes every single thing leading up to the NFL draft, do you personally think it still serves an impactful tool for evaluating talent?
I think yes and no. I think there are parts of it that are still useful. I think that because the big question would be like, what do we learn at the Combine that we can't learn at a pro day workout, right? If everybody can do the same drills at their university, at their pro day, why is the need to bring everybody together? And I think that the biggest advantage I think that the Combine still gives is leveling the playing field across, right? Because you go to each of those pro day workouts and everything is highly scripted. It's very much controlled by the players in the school, so they can kind of make it as advantageous as possible for the players, and with good reason, right? You want your guys to look good, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think the Combine in particular gives teams a level playing field. You bring 320-ish guys out there. They all have to run through the same types of things. They have to deal with the same types of distractions. As long as the league and the event continues to listen to the players, listen to the agents, listen to the teams, and pick and choose what are the parts of this that are most effective for giving us the information we need, and how do we do it in a way that's the least intrusive to the players as possible, and respects their time, respects their health, and their presence there. I think there's still a way to do that effectively at the Combine, but I do think we'll continue to see those changes just a little bit here and there to make sure that all parties are confident that going to Indy is going to be a good thing for everybody involved.
Okay, regardless of the future of the Combine, I want to talk about some of the players that will be highlighted this year and what they stand to gain. So let's start off with everyone's favorite, the quarterbacks. We've seen top names sit out in the past when they feel confident in their draft stock, but Luke, for you, who are a couple guys that will be out there giving it their all and can actually improve their stock with a good showing?
Yeah, so it's a big quarterback class, right? You've got 3 or 4 guys at the top who could all be top 10 picks, so obviously all eyes are going to be on them. It looks like, as far as I know, Bryce Young from Alabama is the only one of those guys who's not going to throw at the Combine. He's going to wait for his pro day. What that does mean is we're going to get C.J. Stroud, we're going to get Will Levis, we're going to get Anthony Richardson all in those quarterback drills, and that's going to be must-see TV, right? We know kind of what to expect from all 3 of those guys in those types of environments, but, I mean, we've seen it in the past, and the same is true in the pro day workouts. I know it's just in no pads, and I know it's kind of highly scripted, but these guys have a chance. All 3 of those guys have a chance to really show off the arm talent, particularly Levis and Richardson. They're gonna wow people with their combination of athleticism and arm talent. I'm interested to see how fast Anthony Richardson runs, if he runs the 40, because he's 6'4", 230. If he runs anywhere near 4.4 flat like we kind of expect him to, I think teams are going to just not be able to look past that. So those quarterbacks are going to be quite a show. Even though we don't have Bryce Young, who I think most people consider the top guy on that list, those other 3 guys are going to make enough of a headline to be worth watching.
Yeah. You said Bryce isn't going to be throwing, but I want to read something from Todd McShay that just came out, and he was actually addressing Bryce Young's quote unquote real height being 5'10.5".
Right.
So he said, if I'm a GM, I'm scared to death of drafting him. Do you think that's fair of him to say?
I mean, everybody's got their opinions. And the thing I've said about Bryce Young all along is obviously he was listed at 6 foot 195, right? But we've all been doing this long enough to know what the word listed means, right? The schools do their best to kind of inflate their guys a little bit. We all know that. So I don't think this is surprising to me. If you were comfortable with Bryce Young as a potential franchise quarterback, say you're Houston at 2 or Indy at 4, any of those teams that would have an opportunity to take him, if you were comfortable with him at 6 foot 195, if that was real, and now he's 5'10.5" and 190 or 185, he's just too good at everything that's important about being a quarterback that I can't just say, you know what, never mind, he's an inch and a half shorter than I thought. I just can't see it. It's too hard to find guys that do everything else well that he does. And if the only difference is he's just not tall enough, I don't see it. My comparison for Bryce Young has always been Drew Brees, but with a better arm and more athleticism. And I know that's really lofty. And again, I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but in terms of the way he wins, the way he plays the game of football, that's what I see. I can't help it. He's short, but he's just so good at everything else that I feel like if teams are really going to write him off, and the problem for him is you got CJ Stroud, who does not have those concerns and has a lot of the positives. It would be easy for a team to be like, man, I just can't get over the 5'10" thing. I'll take Stroud and be fine with it. I get that. But man, if he tumbles at all as a result of just that height number and somebody outside the top 5 lands this guy, I think there are going to be a lot of teams looking back and saying, man, why did we get so hung up on that? He's just that good.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the rest of the field. So skill positions or on the defensive side. I want you to give me a couple names that we'll be talking about after the combine's done and we could see move up on the board.
Yeah, so a big one on offense for me is going to be Quentin Johnston, the TCU wide receiver, right? It's such an interesting receiver class because I feel like maybe 8 of the top 10 guys in that class are all like 5'10" and under. It's a really small receiver class at the top. Not to mean they're not fantastic players. They're all very explosive, big play guys. But Quentin Johnston is kind of the guy that stands out quite literally because he's 6'4", 215, and he can jump out of the gym. He's got the long arms, the catch radius, and he's got 4.4, maybe 4.3 speed. So at that size, I think it's going to be big for him to prove he's as athletic as we hope he is. And on the other side of the ball, similar traits, but at corner, the guy that would be covering a guy like that, Kansas State's Julius Brents. We saw Tariq Woolen last year, right, go in and dominate the combine. We keep seeing this movement towards bigger corners with the long arms. The question is, can those guys move in a tight space because their limbs are longer? It's harder to get in and out of your breaks, right, when you're 6'3", 6'4". Julius Brents is 6'3 plus, 200 pounds plus. He's got the length and the long arms, but at the Senior Bowl in those one-on-one drills, he looked really fluid, matching routes. He ran one route where he got to the point where the ball was supposed to be thrown before the receiver did, and the quarterback didn't even throw the ball because it was pointless. It was like, wow, you just beat me to the punch. So if he shows not just in the 40, but in those short area drills, right, the cone drills, the short shuttles, if he at 6'3", 200 plus has the kind of combine I hope he does, he could be that Tariq Woolen guy next year. Hopefully he doesn't last to the 5th round this time. I still don't know how that happened for Woolen after the performance he had in the combine last year. But if he runs fast, big corners like that just shouldn't last that long, and I think he could have a big impact at the next level.
Everyone's favorite event, not going to lie, mine too, the 40-yard dash. It's, of course, going to be the main event again. So, Luke, could you tell us about some of the speedsters who you think are going to steal the show? And 2, if you had to put money on it, what would be your prediction on who clocks the fastest time?
Yeah, I think this receiver class, again, is going to be really fun to watch because we got a lot of undersized guys who can fly. And I mentioned him earlier, but Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee is the guy I really think could take the crown this year. Obviously, it's a must-see TV event. They moved it to prime time, I think, in the past. So everybody wants to watch. Everybody wants to see these fast guys run. There are a couple of corners that could get up in that range. I think Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, who's a Colorado transfer, he's another corner that could really rise. He's 6'2" and can really, really run. So if he runs super fast, 4.3, anything in that range, I think that'd be huge for him. But Jalen Hyatt is the guy that I think everybody is, once he gets on the track, everybody's going to want to tune in because I think he could legitimately get under 4.3. And anytime you're doing that, you're setting the track on fire and you're improving your draft stock a lot.
All right, let's look ahead to the draft a bit here. So each day that passes, it's more likely sounding that the Bears are going to trade out of the first pick. My first question for you is, do you think that's the smartest move for the Bears? And also, what does it mean for their commitment to Justin Fields?
Yeah, so I mean, this is the perfect scenario for any team, right? You win out at the last week of the season to get the number 1 pick, and you don't need a quarterback, so you don't really need it. And it's a draft that has 2 bona fide number 1 worthy players at other positions that you do need. Will Anderson from Alabama, the edge rusher, Jalen Carter from Georgia, the interior defensive lineman. The Bears need both of those guys. Even if they go into free agency with all that money, they're going to spend to fill those needs, but that's not going to keep them from taking either one of those guys if they stick and pick at number 1. But the interesting thing for them is, like you said, they don't need a franchise quarterback. They have Justin Fields, who's got 2 more years and a 5th-year option on that rookie contract. I think with a supporting cast that could actually make his life a little bit easier than we've seen the last couple of years, I think he could really take that next step. He's still only 23 years old and be a superstar in this league with his rare skill set. So I think you'll probably see some posturing from the Bears this week. Be like, maybe Bryce Young. We could sit here and take a quarterback. That's fine. I think that's all about generating interest, generating value in that pick, trying to entice. Because look at the rest of that top 5, right? You got Houston at 2, who needs a quarterback. You got Indy at 4, who needs a quarterback and would have to jump ahead of their division rival to get the guy they want so they don't have to face him twice a year. There's a lot of dynamics there to that potential trade. But for the Bears especially, this is a great opportunity for them to have a bidding war for that number 1 pick because they need a lot. They need to rebuild that entire roster. The trenches on both sides of the ball. Justin Fields needs as much help as possible in terms of the weapons. They probably will lose their top running back in David Montgomery to free agency. They need so much. And again, $100 million in cap space, twice as much as the next team. They're going to be able to fill a lot of those needs. But if they're able to trade from 1 even to 4, don't know that they would go much further than that because, now you're getting out of the range where you might still be able to get Anderson or Carter because if 2 quarterbacks go 1-2, now Arizona at 3, probably take one of those guys and you still get the other one. Don't know that they'd go much further down than 4. But it's just a great opportunity for them to load up on draft capital. They can get picks this year, next year, continue to build around Justin Fields. I feel like that's just a way better use of their resources at number 1 than trading Justin Fields to someone else, starting over at quarterback with somebody who hasn't been in the offense, may not be even as good as Justin Fields, and now you've lost the opportunity to use that pick to load up on a bunch of other picks to fill those other needs. I feel like trading down at the end of the day is going to be their best bet. Sticking with Justin Fields is going to be that as well.
Hey, sports fans, if you want to see more conversations with athletes and stars, check out these videos right here and be sure to subscribe for more from USA Today Sports.